Well, Mr. Zellerbrax, we find ourselves in our 14th episode. I honestly can't believe, that we have been going for as long as we've been doing these Star Citizen podcasts. How about you?
Man, it's wild and great.
And great.
I look forward to it every week. I know we were, although we had a pre-recorded one, we kind of off last week, so trying to get back into the groove.
Yeah, we definitely need to get back into the groove, and tonight's going to be an interesting episode. I think it's
gonna hear me get salty.
You're definitely gonna. There's gonna be some, and here's the thing. I think Zel and I do an awful lot of, we try and be as analytical as possible and that type of thing. But, I definitely think we're gonna take some positions tonight. I think, where there are many times when we're talking about things and not to say we won't tonight, like try and see each side of the issue, but it is one of those things where, you feel, and as we kind of begin to kind of let you in on it here, you feel kind of a type of way about it, and that's just the way it goes.
Well, I think you and I both kind of, share the same philosophies about a lot of things in life, and we're definitely libertarian minded when it comes to things. We're definitely you do you, the best way you can, and we're happy for everybody to play their game the way they want to, play it. Now, that goes both ways too. So just because we may speak about an issue doesn't mean that we necessarily think it's the wrong way to play. Now, is there a couple of things that we may say, hey, that's BS, and you guys are just being dicks, just to be dicks. There's that side of it as well. So, in more or less, some of the things that may sound salty is probably coming from that angle. And you're hearing a lot of this being bantered about lately of griefing, and PvP is the only, is Star Citizen is a PvP game and things like that. But we're here to I guess put our take on the situation. I know you guys have probably listened to a few other people out there talk about it, some other podcasts and some live streams and things where people have been bringing it up in the past couple of days, and it just seemed to be something that we had we had some feelings on it as well, not necessarily because a lot of people, it seemed to raise some dander, and we wanted to talk about it a little bit. So.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you're absolutely right. People do take strong positions on this stuff, and it's so funny. I mean, in the community, a lot of people who kind of keep their ear to the track would remember a couple of months ago a little bit of a kind of a blow up between Forrester. I wouldn't say it was between them in the sense that they were purposely going after each other, but I know Forrester is kind of represents maybe kind of one side of the gameplay, and Avenger 1 kind of represents the other side of the gameplay. And, and I know that even Space Tomato got involved and had them both on. And there was a bit of discussion about kind of griefing versus piracy versus, different gameplay elements. And then I think recently with the way that they've decided to kind of redo Security Post Kareah, and the way that they're going to kind of change that, crime stat, situation, how you kind of get rid of it and that type of thing. It really just kind of organically kind of is in the community as well, so I thought we would kind of touch on all things a little bit around this area. And it's funny, Zel and I, as we began talking about it a little bit, I would say at first we were like, I don't know if there's enough there. And then as we after about 45 minutes of us going back and forth, we're like, yeah, there's going to be plenty for us to talk about when it comes to this stuff. So, you know.
It's like one of the things about, yeah, we do plan on certain topics for the podcast, but then again, some things that we just get into a big discussion about, going, well, maybe we need to discuss this, with other folks as well. So, and this seems to be one of those things where, yeah, a lot of people are talking about it, but maybe a lot of this needs to start kind of getting hashed out as well. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit, because we all, you and I kind of have feelings on certain things one way or the other. But before we do, you guys make sure if you like what you're listening to, you hit that subscribe button. You give us a thumbs up. And, say some sweet nothings to us down in the comments down below. We like that. But so I guess that's the thing, right? Is I wouldn't say that we have strong opinions on it. Like I said, we're all about everybody playing their own game. Getting what they're wanting out of the game. Sometimes that is can come into conflict with how other people want to play the game. So, and I guess that's what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight.
Absolutely. And one of the things I think it's very important to begin the segment with is just, I can't really state it clearly enough. And I think I can speak for Zel in this, somewhat as well. We are more, it's not that we, combat's great, but we're definitely more industrial-based players. We definitely try and, if I'm gonna plan a night with a bunch of guys to go out and do something in Star Citizen, it's for myself. It's gonna be more around locating resources and acquiring those resources, and generally that's mining. I hope that salvage and some other things come online at some point, or even cargo hauling is in a better place later. But for the most part, mining. So I always jokingly say that I'm, a sheep among wolves. That being said, I mean, there are many times when we design our org nights and that type of thing that we have security. I mean, we have Overwatch. We have people that flex between Overwatch and place holding. If we feel like we need that, we have escorts, for our hauling ships, that type of thing. But I just want to make sure, that before we kind of get into the larger topic about piracy and griefing and crime stats and really just kind of peel different layers of the onion open, I'm very candid about the type of gameplay that I enjoy. That being said, I really do think that, I never want to be the verse to be that sanitized. I want it to be a dangerous place. I think that, I want it to, I want, even though I am the one who's going to be pirated, I will say unequivocally, I want piracy in Star Citizen. I think that it's an absolutely fundamentally important thing to have that fear, to have, nothing's going to get your blood pumping like, somebody trying to take something that you've worked your tail off to get.
Well, yeah, because we want that risk reward.
Absolutely.
Right? And, for the most part, I mean, we can be we can be silly guys, but, we're pretty pragmatic about things. And our fun is, getting out, doing mining. When salvage comes online, that's going to be a big thing for us. We love the idea of salvage gameplay. Exploration is another one of those things that we're absolutely looking forward to. But we also want to have that risk reward, right? We, like you said, we don't necessarily want where we feel like there isn't any risk, but we don't want people crawling up our noses all the time either. You know, we're just out mining and somebody just comes by and either rams you or, you know, is in a eclipse and shoots you with a torpedo from, you know, 10K out or something. You know, that's kind of BS as well. So when we talk about, you know, true piracy, we're talking about, you know, real pirates. They're not out to, you know, they're not out to kill you. They're just out to get your stuff. You know, it's, you know, pay, you know, it's kind of like the troll at the bridge, right? Pay the toll.
Absolutely.
And,
pay the highwayman.
And we're 100% behind that type of gameplay. We truly are. Now, just going out to kill people just to be dicks about it, yeah, we're not so much about that. And you know, that's one of the things that I guess we'll just kind of get into it right now, which is kind of spurred a little bit of this conversation about Kareah, is that, you know, the reason it kind of became a topic for us was, you know, it was on Star Citizen where they were talking about, you know, the new gameplay for Kareah and before, you know, it's like they're wanting to start funneling people into a certain place. They're taking away all the different security depots where you can go hack a crime stat. But one of the things that they changed up, probably, I guess it's been 2 years now, is where they changed certain fine infractions from being just fines to being crime stats. And you know, they were, and I guess ever since they put Klesher in the game, it's just like they tried to funnel everybody to Klesher. So when you get a crime stat, it's, you know, you immediately go to Klesher. So instead of having degrees of crimes, and a lot of times when people get these crime stats, it was an accident. It was a bug. You crashed into the station and, you know, hit one of the turrets and boom, man, now you got a crime stat.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the real drawbacks, I agree, is that, you know, you can just fall down a ladder on a guy.
Yeah. You know, we've seen it plenty of times. You know, when we're out mining or whatever and have a bunch of different guys out and kind of bump each other in rocks when we're, you know, letting people off. And, you know, this is extraneous. And I guess why it became such a hot topic or a hot button issue for us is that before you start funneling everybody into one area, why don't you start working on the reputation and, you know, the criminal system where, you know, if you bump into a buddy, you don't get a crime stat. If you accidentally bump somebody with your ship with another ship, you don't get a crime stat. You know, at the very least, we were talking about, you know, if you're wanting this type of gameplay, then, you know, you shouldn't be shot on sight or go straight to prison for a parking violation. You know, this is something that they changed a couple of years ago and have not reverted it since. And these are the things that need to be addressed before you start funneling people, you know, into one area to either, you know, hack a crime stat or be, you know, it's like they're turning this thing into a mini jump town again. It's
and that was the thing that I had jotted down to. They're, you know, Kareah in particular, they're jump towning Kareah. That's probably, you're exactly right. That's the one thing that I know that they're trying to, and we will get into the larger kind of questions about the the decisions that are being made with that. But that's what they're doing. They're trying to funnel a lot of traffic through Kareah in an effort to kind of do a kind of a jump town type thing. And there are short term and long term implications to that, and and that type of thing. But just want to pivot on one thing that you are saying, just to really quickly dovetail in, and then I'll let you riff a little more on it. Is I agree with you 100% that I understand they have crime stats 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But if you even get a crime stat 1, as far as I know, the only way to deal with that is to go to Grim Hex and you can pay the fine at the terminal.
Yeah, just pay the fine. But that's, there needs to be degrees of this.
Right.
The way they have it set up now, it's just a lazy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type situation. It's that GTA type of way of handling crime, the criminal system. And I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that. Like I said, I don't want to and let me preface to say this, I have no problem with what they're doing, setting up all this stuff. It's fine. I'm two minds of it, right?
Yep.
Is that, it's where, a lot of people are going to be, driven, to, and, it's going to bring a lot of different people in, whether, bounty hunters are looking for bounties and things like that. But I guess, really why we've got on the soapbox, it's not the gameplay. It's that they're adding these things into the game without addressing other problems. Certain things like the criminal system needs to be addressed before, they have things like create set up, and we need to kind of have a little bit more nuanced system with is it the difference between parking and moving violations and then actual criminal acts.
Yeah, there needs to be civil infractions. I mean, like right now you have civil infractions or misdemeanors or felonies or however they would choose to classify them. But and you also, I understand that there's this brief window where you can choose to press charges or not press charges. There should be kind of almost until they kind of really get it worked out. Because let's face it, and I mean, and it's important for me to specify, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but for new players in particular, you know what I mean? It's very egregious, you know what I mean? To kind of, you're going to bump into things. You're going to, there's a learning curve there. And so, all of us have wound up with crime stats that we, didn't necessarily deserve,
Well, and I guess that's another thing too, as well, right? So, we're talking about this, earlier this week where, I had taken a break off from Star Citizen for, several years, because, when I was playing before, I just didn't feel like the game was in a good place to play. And, I came back, about a year ago, and felt like it was in a good place to start playing again. And when I started playing again, heck, it wasn't, so you could almost, like I said, I've been, was keeping up with Star Citizen, but wasn't playing. So when I came back, and you're learning how to fly again and all these different things. And we were out all together, and we crashed our ship. I think we crashed. We did something. We ended up crashing, and we both, bumped into each other and died and woke up in prison and was like, what the hell? Why are we in prison? And, it's because we gave each other a crime stat when we crashed. And so that's kind of one of those things that needs to be addressed is, I think we both got homicides. So we were in there for about an hour and 30 minutes. We had an hour and 30 minute sentence, and we were like, we're in jail for like an hour and 30 minutes. We can't play. And that's kind of jarring for a new player because you're like, well, I don't know what to do. Well, most players would be like, I don't know what to do from here. It's like, where do I go from here? And for one thing, it shouldn't be a thing, right? For a new player to have to go to jail because, they're still learning how to fly their ship or whatever the case may be. They accidentally, when they were landing, they accidentally bumped the turret on one of the stations. These things need to be addressed. And I know that there's a lot of time, energy, and effort going into getting Squadron out and all these different things. But, if they're trying to retain as many new players as they can, from here on out, that kind of stuff needs to be addressed.
I don't disagree with any of that. I think and like I said, I don't want to spend the new player experience is important to me. It absolutely is, that the people get introduced to the game, and that they have sound fundamental mechanics and don't kind of get themselves over their skis to a point where, if you end up with let's say you end up accidentally flying your ship into something or whatever, and you wind up in jail for 3 hours, you're like, I'm just going to log off. That's what I'm looking. I don't want, and I don't think anybody wants that. Where you have a new player who just kind of, feels the need to just kind of, I'm taking off for the night. And one of the things, because we're talking about how, so there definitely needs to be some, some other ways, and I don't care if it's maybe, I know you get this kind of, there's a press charge bracket. You don't always get a choice if it's another player. Maybe there should be a way to kind of repetition them. It's like,
well,
or
I'll tell you another thing too is that when those brackets pop up, it's relatively fast.
That's what I'm saying.
It needs to be one of those things where it locks onto the screen, left or right, which, is it yes or no, thumbs up, thumbs down, where you have time, as a new player, sometimes you're trying to figure out what the hell just happened to me. The pop-up at the top of the screen comes up, and it's there and gone so fast you don't even have time to read it. It's like, what the hell did that say?
It's up there for a bit, but the thing is because they pop up all the time, just for random reasons, you certainly could get yourself into a spot where you're not really paying that close of attention to them either. You're absolutely right. You're spending so much time trying to figure out, like, wait a minute, I died, and what did I do? I now I have a crime. You're kind of trying to figure out why you got a crime stat. It definitely isn't up there long, and it certainly can disappear before you have the option to press or not press charges or whatever.
Well, that's the thing. You say it's up there for a bit, but man, there has been tons of times that I was shot, and it's like, where the hell did I get shot? And by the time that I figured out what had happened, that thing had already come and gone.
Yeah, well, I can appreciate that for sure.
Where if I had a chance to press charges or whatever, it by the time that I'd figured out what had happened, that pop up had come and gone. What it needs to do is lock up there, and give you the yes or no. At least be up there for like 45 seconds where it's like, yay, nay. or give an option where it stays up there, and you've got to say yes or no to either one, for it to go away, So yeah, man, especially for new players, because hell, most people don't even know it's a thing, right?
I
And
agree.
you're still trying to figure out what's going on.
And I honestly think if you have a crime, this is just me. I think if you have a crime stat 1, I think you should be able to land at every port and pay it. I mean,
absolutely.
that's the other thing. I mean, I don't necessarily think you should have to fly to Grim Hex. I mean, it's only a crime stat 1.
Well,
there needs
before you could go pay these fines off, because there's terminals,
for paying off.
in just about every station. So, yeah,
the landing zones have those things for sure.
yeah. So, it is definitely one of those things, and it used to be a thing where it was just a fine and you could go pay it. I think they need to start with just crashing your ship or bumping somebody, or and I know a lot of this stuff is going to be changed in the future, where if you accidentally bump into another ship, it's not so dire. Where both ships could possibly just explode,
Go up and yeah, exactly.
yeah. So we're gonna get to the point where the damage mapping and those type of things are going to be into the game, and you bump a ship and it does a little bit of damage to the ship, and no harm, no foul. Or situations where if you have a player, and I know a lot of this stuff is going to be refined and polished and added to, and I'm sure a lot of the devs have completely have already kind of mapped out like how a lot of this stuff is going to go. But I guess this kind of relies a little bit on the reputation system, or if you got people in your friends list, sure, they can be friendly fire, where where you do damage to someone else, but you don't immediately get flagged for shooting one of your org mates, someone on your friends list, or somebody that you're in a party with.
Yeah. I mean, maybe even if there was a matrix where you could be like, whatever this guy does, it's not a crime against me. I mean, you're exactly right. Some kind of a, some kind of a situation where there's some security protocol or some security groups, that are things, something like that, where you can kind of assign, like, this guy's in a security group, and if whatever happens, I acknowledge it as a friendly fire incident, whatever happens between us, type of thing. And, and of course, you could always just tweak those as it goes. But I think, I mean, it's definitely needs, there's so I think we I think Zel and I, we're on the same page. We think that the crime, they either need to change the way that they're handling crime stats, or they need to be handled slightly differently. And then there's also needs to be, I mean, obviously the other side of it is, and you're making a really good point, is about the reputation system and how that's going to handle crime stats needs some work as well.
That kind of goes into the other thing too, is if you have, once you hit that threshold with, that maybe that first tier of reputation with some of these security forces, let's just say Crusader, for instance, and you go and do, a mission for Crusader security, and you go to a bunker, you go to a place that, may have the security forces there, and you accidentally shoot one of those guys in the foot or something, or he walked right in
Yeah.
in front of you when you're shooting a Nine Tails guy. That shouldn't be an immediate where everybody turns their guns on you. That is like, oh, sorry, my bad. So I think when you're working that reputation system, is that you at least get, if you have a certain reputation with them, you've got a little leeway of where you accidentally shoot somebody. Maybe
Oh,
have it
that's
on
an interesting way to handle it. Yeah, like if the crime stats are like, there was. Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. If you say you've completed like 13 of these missions, and they're kind of like, yeah, this guy's, I like to, he's a pretty good dude. And then if you accidentally shoot somebody, you've got some margin for error there. I think that's a great idea.
Maybe you get a reputation ding if you kill one of the security guys.
Absolutely.
Or, something like that. But the way, and I know, man, this is early days, and a lot of this stuff is kind of in its proto form, very simplistic, but not everything needs to be so polar. As it's either you make a mistake and you're basically shot on sight. So that needs to be addressed soon. If all these reputation systems is coming for 319 or 40, all these things are being worked out for pyro, then I think the criminal system is the because that is definitely going to be the next big thing that we're going to have to start dealing with, because when 318 comes in and you get Pez and some of these other things where piracy starts to ramp up, you can actually come in and you got physicalized cargo, you can actually take people's cargo. These things are going to be ramped up. So I most definitely believe that the criminal system needs to be addressed. Even maybe not 318, but most definitely 319 and beyond.
Well, and I think that's why you're making an excellent point. I think that's why we find ourselves here tonight, right? Is because now that they're jump towning Kareah, obviously, like the crime stat situation, it has, like we've talked about, you could fly over to Grim or, and pay your level 1 fine. But you also did have options to go clear your crime stat. I mean, there were a couple of guys can go and, and clear out a bunker and hold it down and clear out their crime stats. And I always listen. People solo bunkers and go for it. I always think I think it's always better. I think bunkers are always I think everything's always a little funner with at least one other person. So
well, and just to go back to saying, and hey, we're not saying anything about Kareah.
No,
Kareah is that I like the idea that they're adding new features to the game.
Absolutely.
And them wanting Kareah to become a PvP hub.
I'm okay with that too. Yeah,
I'm totally all right with it. It's not going to affect us one way or another. We're out there mining or salvaging and having fun. These guys are going to be out.
You and I were saying earlier.
Having their version of fun, at Kareah. So.
I mean, you and I were saying earlier, it may positively affect us. I mean, if a lot of these guys are kind of who are really the PvP types end up being around Kareah and kind of shooting each other and arguing over the boss loot or the vault loot there, I mean, it may very well just kind of work in somebody who's doing some mining's favor. I mean, if it's that fun over that way. I mean, Jumptown. I just want to say this, absolutely, so people can hear it clearly. I've never been pirated that much mining. I've mined close to 2 years now in Star Citizen, and I've only had a handful. And by a handful, I guess I mean like I could count it all on one hand. Times that I've been messed around with pirates. So it's not a problem right now in the game. I mean, it's different people may have different experiences, but and I spend time in the Halo. I spend time on Lyria, and and all sorts of other places as well. But I have not had a problem with piracy in any way, shape, or form before. But especially if Jumptown or these events are going on, it's crickets anywhere else so Kareah could very well make it very, very a lot safer verse for people, if it becomes that kind of a hub. But I also don't necessarily. I really think that they should have at least a couple of spots to clear your crime stat. Like it seems like it may end up being kind of a bloodbath over there.
And I think that's the thing, right? Is that they truly do want to funnel everybody to that one location.
Yeah, they're Jumptown in it for sure.
If you're wanting to PvP, because a lot, on the occasions that we did have, you and I went and had to go clear a crime stat. It wasn't the quickest thing in the world. So having one place to do it, when you have a lot of people that want to be doing it, and then you have all the bounty hunters showing up there, to take the bounties. So, yeah, I think Kareah, more power to them, man. Absolutely. The only problem is that, the conversation, because a lot of this is kind of part and parcel, right? We haven't even discussed, what they're wanting to do in 319 with the prison system. And that, this discussion had become the catalyst of, we need to start figuring out the reputation system, the criminal system, all these different things before, it's like, hey, we want to start funneling people to, the reason that you get a crime stat and go straight, get a level 1 crime stat and go straight to prison is that, now they're wanting people to work on their prison gameplay. It's these are the things that, if you live outside the law, you need to have these people, testing that type of gameplay for you, and instead of what we're calling quote unquote law abiding star citizens that, have an accident and then have a crime stat and then is sent to Kareah or sent to Klesher. So, yeah, all these, I guess that's become the catalyst of this conversation. These things need to be worked out before these other gameplay features need to be added, in my opinion. And this is all our opinions on this situation.
Oh yeah, it's very important to understand. These are the positions that we take, having been, people who have played, in the verse for quite a long time, and really, quite honestly, I played the game probably 6 months, just kind of mining and doing my own thing. I'd never even seen the inside of Klesher. I mean, maybe even, much longer than that.
And that's a funny thing. And, and I'm, I live inside, I'm a fairly law-abiding citizen and seem to go to Klesher all the daggum time, for whatever reason. And like I said, it's not that I'm salty about going to Klesher. It's fine. It's no big deal. I can figure it out. Usually I don't stay there long. I'll do a couple of those missions and get out, whatever. But, we're kind of talking about, coming from a new player perspective that isn't sure, kind of going back to that example, we'd only been playing for about 4 hours and we went to prison, when we started again, here last year, and we went to prison, and we're on Discord with a bunch of people that weren't playing Star Citizen, and we're like, you guys went to prison for what? They were a little shocked, and surprised. And they're like, how long? Hour and 30 minutes. And they were like, yeah, I won't be doing that. And I think that's kind of a general sentiment for people that aren't used to playing or aren't used to Star Citizen in the way it plays at this particular time. Don't get me wrong. I know that isn't going to be how it is, in the future. But if you're trying to retain new players, that needs to be worked out. I mean, going to prison should be like in-game type content. You should have been playing the game for quite a little while before you ever get sent to prison.
I mean, and there are lazy and elegant ways to handle it. I mean, a lazy way is the first 25 hours someone's in the game, just give them some leeway. You know what I mean? Just give them some new guy karma. Where if they happen to bump something, they don't get some. If they happen to, maybe make it where it has to be fairly egregious, where they just outright shoot somebody. You know what I mean? Type of thing. Before you, they're getting a hard crime stat. You know what I mean? Type of thing.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. I think, there's degree, absolutely, and I'm quite sure that they're working on the degrees of the criminality system.
Sure.
But, as it is right now, like I said, a couple of years ago, they had it to where it was, the stuff that we were talking about was just basically fines, and you could pay off the fines. Anything short of, shooting somebody, was no big deal. And, and I know in the future that's probably going to be the case again. Of course, you're going to have theft and piracy. I mean, you may not have to kill somebody, but still pirate them and, and get a major crime stat. And that's the way it should be. Being an outlaw in this game should be hard mode. Like a lot of people have been talking about, is that living outside the law in Star Citizen should be hard mode.
Yeah, and
it should not be easy. And I think things need to matter where, whether you go to, if you're a hardcore criminal and, short of Mad Dog shooting everybody on sight, and, we've seen it where, I've actually, watched a few chats here lately where not here, you see a lot of people going, oh man, you shouldn't spend any more than 30 or 45 minutes in jail. I was like, well, I don't know, man. It's not the way I kind of see it. I feel like, if you're going to just flat out kill somebody, that's an egregious offense. And, there needs to be, pretty severe punishment. And however long you spend in prison and the hits that you're taking to your reputation system where you couldn't survive. Like if you come across the border from Pyro into Stanton or another law-abiding system, it should be a shot on sight situation. You don't get far. Having that bad of a reputation. And sorry, I knew you was going to say something, man. But so go ahead, man.
No. I was just jotting down a note or two, so I kind of remembered what I wanted to say, and it's absolutely no big deal. I mean, I think it really is. That's the nexus, right, between reputation, PvP, griefing, and this type of thing. It is fleshing out the reputation system more. It is funny to me because I am a PvE basically player for the most part, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, if drawn into a fight, I'm going to defend myself, and I mean, I am a competent combat pilot. Am I fantastic? No, but I'm competent. There certainly is a difference in Star Citizen between really good pilots and people who don't practice at all. And, I've heard, in the most respectful sense, I've heard Avenger 1 kind of make the argument, well, get good. And to be honest with you, I don't necessarily disagree with that at some level. But I also cannot, as the person, it's okay. So you've chosen to be a pirate, and and in this piracy, you've shot like 16 people tonight and pirated all over and now it's like, well, I'm just going to go log off the cluster for 5 hours and get up the next day and do that. I don't think that's cool, actually. I don't, that to me, that's where we get sideways, right? I mean, it's, if people want to run around and indiscriminately pirate and kill, I'm okay with that. But what system should who's going to sell you fuel? Or why would they rearm you? That's the thing. Like, it's that part of the system to me that's not necessarily in yet at all. So there's a whole lot of argument to be made. It's like, and I don't, I 100% think, and eventually there will be these kind of gameplay loops, right? Where we've talked about it in the past, where you have kind of your mobile fleet. And I'm sure pirates will have their mobile fleet with their own repair ships, their own refueling ships, their own rearming ships. And we're not there yet, right? So there's certainly, it's not to say that they're not going to be able to operate at all. And I don't want them to necessarily not be able to operate at all. But I don't understand how you can, and I just mean it, like going back to that example, I don't know how you can kill 13 people, log off the cluster, and get out the next day. That's the thing, right? I think it's, if you want to be somebody who's hardcore and pirates and shoots people, and that's your reputation in the verse, I'm okay with it. What I'm not okay with is, I think that there needs to be it needs to be a much more difficult road to get refueled, rearmed, and repaired. You can't say on one side, well, it's just a game, I mean, get good, and then on the other side, not necessary. I mean, there's a level of fidelity in Star Citizen that basically, don't get me wrong. Should there be like some, indiscriminate, should you maybe be able to pay people off to get a lower, I'm all hacking your way down to crime stat lower, or paying off officials, or, all the typical ways criminals get away with it. That's fine. But, that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And these things are coming in the future for sure. But, really where we're getting into the heart of it, and kind of like the thing with Fairster and Avenger 1,
right.
Avenger 1 had one of those wild hair days where, he's like, really staunch and adamant, this is a PvP game, and, if you don't like it, then just kind of piss off. That was the attitude. And I watched the video and I was just kind of like, yeah, that is a bad take. And I, that kind of, for me, I like Avenger 1, but that left a bad taste in my mouth, because much as you say that, it isn't. This is a sandbox game like anything else. And it has, it's a game that has PvP in it. It's not a PvP game. At no place did it say, Call of Duty Star Citizen Edition. That's not what it is. It's a huge sandbox game, and it's a game for a bunch of different people. It's whatever you want to get out of the game, and I'll argue that point as much as people will argue the point that it is. It's it isn't a PvP game. It's a game that has PvP in it, and there's a lot of nuance to that. And like we said in the beginning, man, we're all about people playing the game that they want to play. And we're all about, the piracy gameplay. Yeah, awesome, man, if that's what you want to be. But it needs to be a situation where, like I said before, is if you want to live that lifestyle in the game, then it needs to be hard mode. And also hitting upon what you were saying, with the reputation system. You know, if you if you become hardcore, man, you know, you shouldn't be able to just, you know, waddle into, you know, into a law-abiding, you know, system and, you know, not feel that there's going to be consequence.
No, I mean, at that point, you're a criminal and you're on the lam. I mean,
yeah, that's right. I mean, you know, and I think a lot of people probably, you know, understand that and are like, yeah, well, you know, that's
and by me saying that,
that's
hey, I mean, if there wants to be a hidden Moss Isley on a couple of moons or something where a guy can get a refuel, I'm good with that. Whatever, you know. I mean, if there,
you know, and that's why like systems like Pyro and Nix are going to exist, you know, because they live outside the law a little bit. Although, you know, you're also going to have, you know, from what I understand with the way the reputation system is going to work is that if you are a member of an organization and you're just out, you know, mad dog killing everybody, you know, my life with the thrill kill cult, you know, whatever it's that, you know, you're going to start burning reputation even with criminal organizations because, you know, you're bringing negative reputation on them, and they don't like it, right? They're wanting to, yes, exist outside of the law, but they don't want people to actively come looking for them either. So, especially when it's pirate organizations, because for the most part, pirates are not, you know, they just want to take your stuff. They don't necessarily want to kill you, right?
Yeah. And I mean, so listen, we're going to be playing. Stanton's a system that's, you know, like, it's so important to understand in this conversation. Things are a certain way now, not necessarily locked in forever. And there's, you know, there's going to be, you know, I think Zel's making an excellent point. You're making an excellent point, Zel. You know, it's you know, Pyro, the other systems are going to have different, you know, different levels of, you know, kind of civility, you know, and all that's, you know, and all that's going to be good. I just think, it is a weird, I just want to kind of, you know, just drive it home one more time. There's a lot of PvP players who, you know, who basically look at the PvE player as like, you know, somebody they can kind of feed on, and then they can just kind of say, get good if, you know, if they're able to kind of consistently beat the guy. But the thing is, you know, my answer back to them is the minute that you start you should not be able to indiscriminately shoot people in a system over and over and over again and then get up the next day and do it. I mean, I just don't think that that's, you know, you're not going to be able to do that. I don't think that you should be able to do that, or I hope that you're not able to do that. I mean, I think that, I mean, there may be a situation where you maybe could get on probation and do some missions to kind of get yourself back right. I mean, I'm open to all sorts of discussions, but
the road to redemption.
Yeah, the road to redemption. Exactly. You can kind of get on a probation path and do some missions and kind of get your, you know, whatever. But I do think that that should stick to you permanently. I mean, honestly, you know, like, it should always be on your record that you have 81 homicides. You know, they should, and when you do, even let's say you're the 81 homicide guy and you do all the missions to go back. I think the minute that you start doing it again, it should, your reputation should go south a lot faster again. You know, I just think it's one of those things. I mean, how are you going to live your life in the verse? And if you're a hotshot pilot who just wants to go around and just kind of shoot people, that's great. I don't have any problem with it. But there also needs to be and of course, taking the new player experience out of it, you know, there needs to be consequences for your actions one way or the other. You know, so, and that's kind of, you know,
between, you know, like with that whole idea of, you know, and I really want people to understand this. We are not down on PvPers.
Oh, hell no.
We're not down.
It's awesome.
And, you know, if you have this situation where you guys want to duel and, you know, see who's the better dogfighter and all that jazz, cool. But, you know, just don't roll up on random people just going about their fucking business And sorry, I used the F bomb again. You know, just randomly run up on somebody minding their own business and shoot them. You know, that shouldn't be, you know, that's something else, right? To going in that whole same thing of play the game you want to play. Awesome. But, you know, there should be a certain amount of civility, you know, and respect other players. You know, if the guy's not bothering you, you shouldn't mess with them. And if you do, then it needs to have stiff penalties. That's the bottom line, right? And there should be some, moderation to this as well. You know, there needs to be some GMs that are, in the game and watching for people that, are exploiting and there's a fine line, man, between, playing the game and then just griefing, just being a dick for the sake of being a dick, so, and I guess that's where, like I said, man, we're pretty pragmatic and, we don't really care one way or another, but, we don't like the idea of just people being a-holes just for the sake of being a-holes.
Yeah, and one thing I will say by me saying that, I've been pad rammed a few times. I've never had some guy I've never honestly had anyone, like a single person, kind of track me down multiple times and kill me. I've never had bad experiences like that in Star Citizen, quite honestly. I'm just saying that I also don't want those things to happen in Star Citizen.
No, and that's what we're talking about.
Right. Is
that, for the most part, everybody, and that's the way we as an org and we as a couple of guys, we just want to have fun and respect other people in the game. And we're not prudish about this either. We're just, want to, make a, fun, healthy experience for everybody else as well. We're not like, oh, that just, whatever. It's just, we're talking about the absolute extreme. For the most part, everybody's always pretty cool and helpful.
Yes.
Are there fringe elements? Yeah, there is. It's going to be that way in every game, right? So, us. This is us hashing out a thought. Really, it really isn't something that we worry about too much in the game.
Oh heavens, no! Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I tried to say that kind of early on. I haven't been pirated much, type of thing. We really haven't, for all the PvE. My experience in Star Citizen has been fantastic. There hasn't been a huge problem with PvP or PV, has there been, some pad ramming? Has there been some griefing? Of course. I mean, yeah. but never. It's never been to the point in Star Citizen where it's been egregious. But we also have had, there's servers that are limited to 50 people, and there's some other kind of, I believe some arbitrary kind of things that have contributed to that. And I mean, and one of them is a low server cap. That particular thing. I mean,
we're getting small sample sizes.
Right.
And there'll be a time where we get a larger sample size of folks.
I mean, you get 2,500 guys on a server, and I'm going to tell you, there's going to be 50 guys that are just, that don't have great thoughts in their,
And that's the thing. And I know I got up on a soapbox a little bit too, man. And it's only because I'm a fair-minded dude.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's only because
I
we
just
don't
want
want to see
everybody
people grieved, right? I mean,
yeah, I just want people to have fun and have a good time. And like I said, man, we're not prudish about this type of situation. We're actually pretty pragmatic people. And, we roll the punches like everybody else, right? We don't, we don't get mad and kick rocks when, something happens. We just, kind of laugh it off and roll with it.
and work the problem. Yep.
Yeah, no biggie, man. It's it's just
Look,
us gnawing on this gnawing on this bone a little bit, man, to see what see what we can get
of
out
course.
of it.
And the one thing I will say, like I always look at like the couple of times I've been pirated. Thank you for the gift, really, because you caught me with my pants down, so to speak. It taught me a lesson that it's not out here. Not everything is going to be easy, or you can't take everything for granted. That you're never going to run into a problem. You know what I mean? I think that there's, I have had I respect the amount of coordination it takes to do any kind of piracy. I think there's an age of piracy that's coming. That's with 318 and the physicalized inventory, I think that's going to there's going to be this age of piracy type of thing I think that it's going to be certainly more prevalent, where we're going to have to take our time and plot courses and deal with that type of thing. I think that there is going to be, the minute that that all of the cargo that's on all the ships can be kind of ripped off of there, I think that's going to change things. Now, whether or not that they actually take the time to offload all your stuff, or it's going to be interesting. I think we really do. We do have this with physicalized cargo. I've always thought that was going to be kind of some kind of a paradigm shift when it comes to piracy. It remains to be seen, but I do think, now that we're talking about, and it's important to understand how, keep circling back. Now that they're changing Kareah, I think Zel made some excellent points earlier. You made some excellent points earlier about how, changing up, making sure that the crime stat system is correct, and making sure that the reputation system is correct. And those types of things. And I think that those things, by extension, based on the argument, they also can serve the other purpose of making sure that there's a good balance between PvE, PvP, and then the type of PvP that happens because people want to fight each other, and the type of PvP that happens because one guy's kind of is openly attacking another guy. I mean, and traditionally MMOs have had varied approaches. I mean, I remember, it seems like in some games, like if you attacked it, you turned red and people could attack you, but you couldn't necessarily attack them, or whatever, or if people attacked you, you could attack them, type of thing. But I'm okay. It's so important to say I do have a ton of respect for the piracy gameplay. It's not my cup of tea. I have watched some videos where people are incredibly meticulous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's funny, it sounds, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I am too. And like I said, I am the sheep among wolves. I get that, because and I only mean it in the context that I'm usually flying a prospector, so,
Well, that's another thing too. And it's not, my motto. I've always lived by this motto. It's, hey man, our prime directive in our org is to have fun and to get along with everybody.
Yes.
And make as many friends along the way. But in the same token, I've always loved this philosophy, and I've said it for years. It's like, only the meek get pinched, the bold survive. So living, learning to live in that world, and making preparation. I mean, that's the thing about something that we've spoken about for a long time now. Star Citizen is all about preparation. It's you have to plan all these things out, and for the most part, we're lucky enough to have a great bunch of guys in the org, and we play we think about what we're doing, and you talked about a little bit about it earlier. When we go mining, man, you know, uh, we we bring the core with us. So
Yeah, X Corp comes along for sure.
that's right. We just play smart, and I guess that's the thing, right? Is learning to play the game inside the game that other people want to play the game.
And we play. Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is absolutely correct. We play on balance, and here's what I mean by that. We haven't, like I said, we don't get pirated much. Are we flying? Like every, is there like three fighters for every little mining vessel that goes and does? No. It's on balance, right? I mean, we have, we have some Overwatch, and that really they're going to skirmish and just kind of, be a early warning detection system, so we can just flee, But I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, if things get cranked up and we're squeezed, we'll adapt. I mean, heavens and stars, yes. I mean, if
we've had the moments where, we had a swarm of 20 prospectors come down on a few guys that kind of attacked us during a mining situation.
Prospector swarm, baby.
Hey, man, like I said, we definitely, live by the, get along with everybody, make friends along the way, and, have fun and play your game. But then again, man, we can also lay the thunder down when we have to as well. We're not afraid of it, and we're not, we don't shy away from it. We just, that's just not the way we play our game, right? I mean, like you said before, we're all competent pilots. And when you get, 20 prospectors, yeah, they may be, death by 1,000 cuts, but hey, we can also,
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I always, I do joke around a little bit. I mean, if I have to go grab a Gladius and just use the sticks and, and we need to get after it, we can get after it. Now, if we face a seriously, a very, very skilled opposition, I mean, we're not an air wing that can sit there and take on somebody who trains 24/7, 8-10 guys that are just fantastic air pilots. You know what I mean? We're not, we would have our work cut out for us. I mean, we're always going to try and avoid those fights if we can. And, for the most part, and then eventually just try and, go off the radar, go off the grid. I mean, we're not necessarily always looking for a fight, but, if we have to, start doing things like, going to alternative places to mine or changing, we're not going to sit there. Like, I'm not going to put my hand on a hot oven 3 times in a row. No, hot stove 3 times. That's what I'm saying. We're going to learn. We're going to adapt. And there hasn't been that kind of, like, it's, I keep coming back to this. There hasn't been the type of pressure, as a predominantly industrial player and really being very blessed in the sense to have sometimes, 10, 12, and even sometimes 15, 20, and even up to 25 guys out on some operational nights, doing some mining stuff or whatever you're doing. There hasn't been any kind of a real significant pressure from a piracy standpoint. I mean, I certainly understand other people have had some, but we've kept a pretty low profile for the most part, and just kind of do our thing, and and live and let live for the most part, and aren't the type of people who kind of jaw a lot in global, and so we haven't really kind of. I'm not saying it won't happen, but we've never kind of had some kind of concerted effort to kind of have where somebody wants to kind of. We've never been in any kind of an organizational war, or anything along those lines. So
yeah, and that's most definitely not our thing.
No, it's not our thing.
We want to be, try to be buds with everybody.
It's not profitable either.
No, it isn't. And at the end of the day, that's basically, where we're at with it is, we're miners, explorers, salvagers, and we just want to get together with a bunch of guys and have some fun, and that's it. And like I said, man, we're all about everybody having playing their game their own way. And by no means, are we down on PvP. Like I'll say it again. It's Star Citizen's a lot of different games for a lot of different people. It being a big sandbox the way it is that you have to have that element of danger, right? To keep the game.
I agree 100%.
Intriguing and fun. And by no means are we saying that PvP is a bad word. It isn't. I think there's a couple of different distinctions about the word PvP. Is it player versus player? But yeah, I mean, it's not a game that's centered around player versus player. It's this is basically a space sim in the future. And, they're trying to design the game to be as, close to what life would be in the future as possible. It's going to be a big space sim. And, it's just like in real life, there's the bad element out there, and, it's always, you just never know what's going to happen out in the world. And I guess that's kind of what they're trying to do here, right? Is that, you've got all these different elements of gameplay. It's not centered around one or the other. It's a lot of different things. It's a culmination of a lot of different things. And, it's not centric one way or the other. The only thing that you could say what it is, it's what life would be like if you were living 900 years in the future. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
will you remind me, Zal, do you know when does this jump towning of Kareah taking place? Is it when 318 launches or sooner than that?
I thought,
or is it even later?
Going to be for 319.
Okay, maybe, and I may have missed that. That's what I was wondering. So it's still a ways off too. So in that capacity, so that's interesting.
I said, and look, man, for a lot of people, I think Kareah is going to be fun.
Oh, even for us, the times we go there, it will be fun, of course.
I mean,
there's a little bit of like a Sea of Thieves type element to it, where you kind of kill, or something, or it's like traditional MMO-ish, where you kill a boss and get some vault
and that's the thing. Yeah. We talked a little bit about that. Why I thought, this is kind of, kind of the beginning of, traditional MMO type things.
Roots, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we've kind of, we've fractured our law or two. It's not to say that we're goody goodies or anything, right? So, going and getting, security depot 1 on Hurston, and what we've kind of colloquially called the Hurston boss, where it was something, a place where we could go get get a unique armor. And seeing the way that they're redesigning Kareah is that they're actually designing it with a boss. And one of the things that we were talking about earlier in the week, and that's one of the things we kind of went down this kind of this soapbox road earlier on, but one of the things that we really kind of wanted to talk about also is the fact that they're starting to add these elements into the game, like traditional MMOs,
yes.
where lack of a better word, having dungeon runs, right, where you have a big baddie, a big boss at the end that you have to, that it's going to be kind of a difficult NPC to take down. You've got to be kind of coordinated, and this guy's not going to be like a two-shot guy kind of thing. You're going to have to coordinate and put put a lot of damage on the guy before he goes down.
And it's going to be interesting to me how they handle that. I just want to say that really, because I mean, obviously, there's, we always talk about the fidelity of Star Citizen, and I do think it's, I like the fact that you kind of, guy gets hit with a couple of FS9 bullets and down he goes. You know what I mean? That's just kind of, there's a reality to that. But I mean, and I could certainly understand that there may be some alien species that are a little more robust than your typical humanoid type, and if they wanted to do that with the Vandal or the Band, I don't necessarily know. The Xi'an, maybe they can take a few more bullets. But they're definitely going to have to do something interesting with this boss in order to make it so. I hope it's not so, and I mean this when I say it, where you sit there and you have 15 guys just teeing off on the guy with FS9s for like 5 minutes each. It's like, how's that going to work exactly? It's going to...
it's one of the things, I guess... I guess there's that juggling, right, of where, fun, engaging gameplay, and how realistic is it going to really be, right? And that kind of came up years ago when they were trying to figure out the flight model for Star Citizen. It's what is reality and, what is more fun. I mean,
yes.
It's like, do you want a game that feels fun and the flight characteristics are very engaging and so I think there's a little bit of a balance there. And whether you have these like the security chief that's going to be at Kareah, is that do you balance that with kind of in that traditional challenge mode for MMOs, where it's like, yeah, this dude has a little bit more health, maybe he has special armor that
right. I think
definitely takes more damage.
Like doing it in that way, where he had like maybe give him like a superior defensible position with a couple of lieutenants or something, and they're they're very difficult to hit because they've got a lot of cover, and they've got themselves kind of wedged into a spot that's it's a little bit challenging to kind of get them out or whatever. Exactly. I hope they handle it that way as opposed to just a great big like I think like a Diablo boss or something where it's just like just a big giant thing going and you just firing endlessly into it until it dies.
Yeah,
I hope they don't do that. Is all I'm saying. They probably aren't going to, but
But I also believe that there needs to be a challenge where it's a little bit more engaging than running up and just shooting the guy fucking one time and then and that's that.
No, I don't disagree. I 100% agree. You know what I mean? I think it's funny because I don't necessarily know that this is a problem that I know they've had the philosophical conversation, but I don't know that this is a problem that they've necessarily had to solve before with this, because you're absolutely right. All the bunkers you run around in, it doesn't matter. Everybody's the same size and everybody seems to take about the same amount of bullets. Now, there are lag or latency reasons or server, connectivity reasons that may or may not necessarily mean that a guy goes down, like feels the bullets or, but that's a different thing than what we're talking about here.
But I would like to see, whether it is, an FPS situation where, in some of these situations where, like you were talking about before, where, like I said, for the lack of a better term, kind of that dungeon situation where you find, a Vandal kingship and you have to fight your way through it, or and then you have, and then you have the big boss at the end, or the same thing with like some of these gangs, these organizations where the main guy at the end has like a particular armor,
like some dune shields or something,
or exactly. You're fighting these security forces where these guys are in Titan suits,
right?
So you're fighting, basically fighting a guy inside of a tank. because the Titan suit is, supposed to be durable like a
Yeah,
tank.
they got some kind of an exoskeleton or something. Yeah,
Yeah, so-
I'm all good with that. I think that stuff I would be totally cool with.
Something that gives you that challenging feeling where, people got to throw some heals on some folks, and, make it fun, make it engaging, make it challenging, something that's, where you roll in and just overwhelm them with, unloading the clip and go, we're good. There's nothing fun about that, right? So
No, I agree. I mean, I want it to be a challenge. It's going to be interesting to see what creative ways they come up to meet that situation. You know what I mean? So, and listen, the one thing I want to say, however they decide to do it in Kareah at that moment doesn't necessarily mean that's that's not, we're always learning. There are iterations to all this stuff, and that sometimes they pull stuff out and put it back in, and they iterate on it a bit, and it becomes better. So the fact that they're the fact that they're adding these traditional elements is the really important thing. Certainly my own fears about the specifics isn't necessarily a terrible amount of food for thought, in the sense that it's only going to be for that moment, and you don't want to get too lost in it. But I am excited about it. I think the whole concept of being able to kind of kill a boss and have a vault. And I think there was going to be some nays in there, and maybe some other types of weapons that are kind of your loot onlys, or your the ones that would be confiscated, rail guns or whatever.
Well, my big thing is, for situations like that, and one of the thing, the reason I thought it was kind of exciting is that, these are going to be, some of the proto missions for things in the future. And I like the idea that you could go around, and, take out, like the security chief, or if you go to these, have to go and deal with these different gangs, or the vandal, or a multiple, it could be a million different things. It could be
like a ship's crashed on a planet, and there are these alien like species that are kind of all over the craft. You know what I mean?
Or you go to a cave. There's like a one of those big bag cave yetis at the end of the thing, where where he has a stash, that type of thing. Somewhere where you can get loot you can't get anywhere else.
Yes.
If you loot that security chief, maybe there's a chest piece that you can't get anywhere else but off that guy.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm okay. Those are mechanics that I'm absolutely okay with, and I think would be fun, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it just, it adds elements into the game where, a lot of players are kind of expecting that type of thing. And, it gives you fun. Even a lot of these survival games like Ark or whatever else, they have these, they have these big boss fights, at the end of the thing. And, that's how you get, a lot of the high-tech loot and stuff that you can't get anywhere else in the game.
I mean, there's a lot. Listen, I mean, with the Quanta system and that type of thing, I mean, you could have this amazing situation where you're trying to draw something out of Quanta. You know what I mean? Where, it's some alien thing. It's flying around to the different places, and, people are kind of aware of it because there's maybe, some monoliths or other things that kind of speak to it, and, kind of eventually maybe there's some pattern to the way that it kind of flies around, and, no one's ever seen it. People may run across it's like a weird ship that they've never seen before, just because they got into its probability volume. You know what I mean? That type of thing. But, come to find out there's a story behind it. You know what I mean? And then you're trying to draw it out of Quanta. You know what I mean? Yeah, that kind of, Star Citizen could really have some amazing stuff. And adding the traditional elements of MMO. I mean, the earliest MMO, and I mean, heck, even the earliest, I mean, dungeon, you go back to, say, even like, RPG games. I mean, that was always the thing, right? There's always, you kind of kill the guy and you get the loot, right? I mean, that's just, So yeah, I mean, the fact that they're beginning to put those traditional elements in, it's something to celebrate. That's for sure.
And a lot of these creatures that they're going to be adding to the game, like the pyro crabs. I mean, if you guys haven't seen those things, like, if anybody is familiar with Warhammer 40K, those things look like Tyranids.
Right.
big, huge things with an exoskeleton that, those things should be challenging to take down. Where a couple of clips isn't going to cut it. Bullets, probably are not going to work on the thing too well. It's like anything sort of a sniper rifle or,
And that's the thing, like, yeah, exactly. That's where you see, like, when a railgun hits something and maybe blows off one of the legs on that thing or whatever, like, eventually,
something that you're not going to go after with a pistol.
Right.
Something that's going to take, a heavy caliber gun to actually penetrate. And maybe, it's like maybe it only has certain weak spots. You have to find these, weak spots in its, in its exoskeleton type thing. It's like it's got these segments, so you have to find the weak spot.
To shoot in the knee with an arrow.
Shoot it in the tire, the mouth or something,
No, and that's that's easy. Like, that's an easier, definitely, to me. Like, when I was talking about kind of, how you're going to handle the boss guy. Is he going to be in a strategic position, or is he going to have some armor on, or is he just going to be a big fat dude that absorbs a lot of bullets or whatever? But that's an easy. I guess my point is it's when it's alien and stuff like that. That's a much easier thing to understand. I mean, you look at, like you're saying, one of these pyro crabs. I mean, I don't know. Just looking at the picture of it, I pulled it up. It looks like it's almost like a cross between something from Starship Troopers and the Dark Crystal. It's, they're just exactly amazing looking. You know what I mean? Just this big armored. Like,
pull up a picture of type in Warhammer 40K Tyranid, and you're gonna go, holy shit! So, because a lot of that is inspired from Starship Troopers, the book. So, the book Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah, no, I see what you're saying exactly. Just kind of looking at them at first blush in images here. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and yeah, I mean, listen, I can't. I mean, obviously, we have not had a whole. And someday, I'm sure you and I will find ourselves doing an episode on, hopefully on the incredible biodiversity in the different systems. Maybe 18 years from now, it's like, have you, oh my stars, we have like thousands of species now, and we never remember when we didn't have any.
That is one thing I hope that they continue once they get most of the things fleshed out and the game goes live. I think that creating new ships and all these new things, but most definitely working on the different creatures, and because I would like to see hundreds of different creatures.
Well, and at different and here's the beauty of it, right? At different levels of technology as well. Like, you have like almost like a stone age, iron age, like an industrial age. But it's of course have it be to kind of not, it doesn't have to follow the Terran history, but it's like the different, and then of course you're going to have all, and that's for anything that's sentient, or that type of thing. But then there's the creatures, exactly, that's it's going to be incredible.
We know in the lore that certain systems have become off limits because there is an up and coming species on a planet that's kind of in its younger stages, right? So sentient creatures that are in the Stone Age part part of progression, so to speak. We know that they exist, so it'd be kind of cool to kind of go see, go see on these different planets, these guys and their, how they're working out their civilizations and stuff. So it's going to be neat from an explorer perspective.
Yes, absolutely, from an explorer perspective. And it'll be interesting also to see, like, okay, so let me just also state this, because we've been talking a lot about crime stats and reputation and this type of thing. We're approaching that from a very Terran like standpoint. I mean, maybe there may be some cultures that you get really a ton of reputation for just being a jerk. There may be, I mean, we always look at it from the, kind of a very, I mean, there certainly could be some systems where, hey, I mean, maybe the more ruthless you are, the more that particular, like the Vandal just love you, I mean.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing too, right? Is, something that's kind of been hinted on before is that even the Banu,
they trade, yeah.
It's like, we're not sure where they kind of sit. Where I kind of see it, it's kind of like they're amoral, right? it's whatever serves them. I'm sure that they have a particular morality to them, right? But maybe they don't see things the way we do, in a sense, where they're like, oh, well, it's cool with us. Yeah, kind of exactly what you're kind of hinting upon.
Yeah,
is
yeah. I mean, they might think piracy.
They trade with the Vandal,
right?
They don't see a problem with it, So,
yeah,
we wouldn't do that as let me back that up, but. Kind of law-abiding Star Citizens wouldn't trade with the Vandal. So they kind of see it as, oh, well, it's an opportunity. We don't care. So we'll see. It's going to be fun to see how when they finally get fleshed out and we get to interact with them, and we may find out some dirty secrets about the Banu.
Yeah.
Or the Geons, and where's their stance? Are they an honorable race type thing, or some of the other alien species that we may run across in the future. So we know the Tavarans are kind of for the most part, kind of an honor-bound type race, right?
Yeah, very like kind of shogun samurai.
Yeah,
that's what I meant.
Very Japanese,
very samurai type. Like warrior culture type thing, and so, yeah, I mean, it's. Certainly different species could see strength or could see aggression differently. Absolutely.
No, it's it's going to be interesting to see what a lot of the stuff they have planned. I'm interested in seeing how we're going to duke it out with the Vandal. When we're out exploring and having fun, where we're not really worrying about pirates. We're actually worrying about serious threats, like the Vandal or something, right? So,
well, what a crazy thing could you imagine if you had a big mining operation going, and you've kind of got your Overwatch is out there head on a swivel, and all of a sudden just something comes out of hyperspace. It's like, what is that thing? And then
one of those Vandal hammers, or
a bunch of little ships pour out of it, and it's like, oh crap, they're attacking us. Yeah, that day will come, hopefully. Where maybe there is a reputation system is based on the fact that, I mean, if you have a big enough organization and you're stripping enough resources out of an area, that you get the attention of some factions. and they don't necessarily like that. You know what I mean? So there are there's certainly some room for
I would definitely love to see that where, there's a lot of these sectors that have been taken over by the Vandul that were UEE controlled, and the Vandul kind of pushed everybody out. What I'd like to see is us as players being able to kind of shift the power in certain sectors, and you get to do kind of that, the tit for tat situation where you push the Vandul out of a system, it becomes non-controlled.
Unclaimed, yeah.
And depending on depending on how many people start coming back into that system is whether you can keep the Vandul out and, make it to where you have, once you've reclaimed it, have the Vandul come in and try to retake it where, you're in a defensive position and you have, it's these encounters that happen, these large scale encounters where, the Vandul's trying to take the system again, and you have to, fight them, fight them back out of the system. Yes. That actually would be really cool.
Oh, it would be amazing. I mean, and like you said, like the more activity, and whatever those kind of metrics are, but the more trade or the more this or that means that, more and more kind of NPC assets show up in an area, and then if maybe it gets attacked and reduced.
Where the quanta starts going back into that area again.
Right, like exactly. All of a sudden, like they'll start jumping through that system now that it's quote unquote safe. But then the more and more that goes on, and the safer it gets, all of a sudden they're actually trading more in your sector. You know what I mean? And that type of thing.
And then if people. If people aren't being vigilant on these border systems, the Vandul can come back and take it back over again, and we'll have to do it all over again and push them out of that system if we're not paying attention.
Yep, that reminds me. I don't know if you ever played Dark Age of Camelot. Like, remember, it seemed like Albion, the Vikings, and the Britons. It seems like there was something they could do, like. And then only that one faction would have like the underworld or some dungeon or something open to them. It wasn't the underworld, but it was like, so you'd work really hard to try and, do whatever so it was open to your faction so you could go get the better equipment. You know what I mean? Type of thing. I can't remember. It's like, I can't remember exactly how all that played out, but I do have a brief memory of it or whatever, but yeah. Or also there's, a couple of MMOs that kind of have systems like that where, it's like players organically impact, where something may exist because they create it and they just, there's more and more commerce and it becomes prosperous and gets bigger and bigger and kind of, it's like a node system that slowly but surely kind of upgrades like the node, you know what I mean? But you're absolutely right. I mean, it could all get, it would be cool if there were some systems where that stuff was just, like you can imagine. I mean, unless they have some kind of a special event, Stanton's always going to be Stanton, right? I mean, ArtCorp's there, these places are here, type of thing. I can't imagine everything would be kind of up for grabs at some point, but you're like, well, just to speak to what you're saying, but there certainly could be these worlds that are unclaimed or some places where the Vandul are, not necessarily don't have a super stronghold in, where maybe you can move in and push them out and establish your own base and create commerce and have this back and forth struggle. What an awesome gameplay that would be.
Yeah, places like Terra, Stanton, these things are going to be insulated, right? You can't, but all these areas of space that are on the borders.
Yeah, these exactly fringe worlds.
Yep. Have those, have a lot of those areas.
Well, and could you imagine as a miner, it's like, hey, it's like, holy crap, if we want to upgrade this if we want to build the star base here, these are the resources we need. And they need to get stockpiled at this one kind of space dock. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, here they come. Here comes a whole bunch of commerce. Traders just coming from everywhere, dropping the aluminum there. So the resources are available.
Could you imagine an org taking over a system where they had enough manpower to, say, push the Vanduul out of that particular system and hold it? It's no different than, say, like you were saying, in Dark Ages of Camelot or Warhammer Online, where the siege element was gameplay, where you went in and took castles over and stuff like that. This is just at a larger scale, where you push the Vanduul out and you take out their base or whatever the case may be, or their main ship, their
kingship,
control ship,
yeah,
and destroy it. Now you can control that area of space.
Now you can bring in your pioneers and start building things.
Yeah.
And eventually build have a star base there, and eventually potentially have the R&R stations and everything in that system under your control.
That's right. And then you'll have these random incursions of the Vanduul coming back, trying to retake it. So you got to defend it.
Yeah, and I mean, with Quanta being what it is, I mean, maybe you hire, like, we're talking about having crews for ships. I mean, maybe you can hire hundreds of people to run a station. You know what I mean? You've got so much money.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It'd be interesting to see at, what scale, are we going to be able to take that thing? It's like it's like Eve.
Right.
You have a lot of this complicated political stuff going on in Eve, just kind of at a macro scale. Now we are at the full Star Citizen could be like that, but at a full blown scale where large organizations can control areas of space. That would be actually kind of. Not only do you have to deal with the NPCs like the Vanduul trying to come back, or however that power dynamic works. Maybe you're bordering on Geon space as well. They don't like you being there, so they kind of try to push you out as well. And then you have like other big orgs that might want to take it from you. So,
well, we talked about pirating. I mean, maybe a hell of a gameplay loop might be pirating Xeon ships. Pulling, or or pirating, Vanduul, or pirating Banu stuff.
I'm quite sure that's going to be a thing. If I was a pirate, I most definitely would want to pirate, Banu ships. They have all the good stuff, right? So,
well, yeah, exactly. And some of the Xeon tech as well, So, yeah, interesting thoughts. I mean, as far as that goes, I think it's, I can't even imagine what that would be like, just like, hey, you're, trade lanes between, Banu to Banu world, and you're kind of, here comes a Banu merchantman, and it's an NPC, and you're interdicting that thing and trying to board it and take it.
Oh yeah, if you're trying to take like a merchantman or something, is going to take a lot of coordination and a lot of effort. That's a pirate at the organizational level. It'd take 10, 15 guys to probably pull that off.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, we're excited to see, the pirate gameplay come in for those guys that, that truly do want to be pirates. We're excited to see a lot of this stuff come in, and as it adds that element of danger.
It does. And let's face it, I mean, we never want the... I mean, it is a sandbox, and I'm mostly a PvE player, so to speak. I mean, but I also do and will always recognize the importance of, of there being danger in the sandbox, and the game's a lot funner because there's danger in the sandbox. I never want it sanitized to a point where, there's no danger at all. I never would like to see that, but I also do think that it's important to protect new players as well, and to also, make sure, and it's not been a problem yet, but make sure that, that if somebody wants to kind of just stay, if that's their thing that they want to do, is stay in kind of a high security area and just kind of, just kind of mine and do their own thing and be left alone for the most part. I want them to have a place where they can do that. If, where, in a high sector place, if they want to do a little base building and kind of do their own just Star Citizen sim kind of thing and not necessarily participate in all the hubbub, I'm good with that too. I want people to be able to experience all sorts of different kinds of gameplay in Star Citizen.
Well, that's where we got to find. That's where CIG has to find the right balance,
right?
And where everything is balanced in such a way as everybody has fun and has a good time. So that's going to be the trick, is to find that correct balance.
Yep. I think we've absolutely, did a very, very sound job at kind of, giving you our feelings, representing kind of how we feel about this, I think I just want to say another great conversation, Zel. I think it's been, it is one of these things that's kind of flavor of the month right now with the changes to Kareah. But I do think that it is a good thing to discuss, and I do think with 3.18 coming up, it's going to be very interesting to see, with physicalized cargo, if it absolutely happens in 3.18. I can't imagine piracy is going to get any smaller when there's going to be real opportunities to go after traders and grabbing their vessels and kind of offloading their stuff.
No,
it's not going to get smaller.
It's going to be interesting times, and it's still early days. A lot of these pirates aren't going to have some of the tools that they're supposed to have available to them just yet. So you're still going to have the challenge of, how to take the ship over and board it.
Yeah, like the boarding, hacking ships. They're not there yet. They're coming later.
Yeah. So. And, see how everybody kind of reacts to being interdicted and
we've talked about that, kind of, doing, kind of coming up with the best game plan when you're being boarded. And I think we've alluded to that, and all that stuff. Oh, the countermeasures to that. Exactly.
What you can do, I'm perfectly fine if somebody says, "Hey, man, pay me $100,000, and we'll escort you back to the station or whatever." I'm cool with that. That's like, absolutely, dude. Let's do it.
Well, I definitely am okay with that. I mean, if I'm sitting there and I'm hauling in 300,000, and a guy's like, "Hey, noticing you kind of got, your belly's full there," I'm like, "Yep." Well, how about 125 and we'll call it good. It's like, well, hey man, that's a lot better than the alternative, which is, kind of losing it all and, heading back to the imprint shop. So And I used to not be that. I will tell you, I used to be like, screw that. I'm not ever paying those guys. And then, no, that's not true, man. I'm going to try and salvage whatever profit I can out of that.
That's true. And then again, I in the same token, I feel like there also needs to be a way to counter, just the very fact that you're being stun locked to the point where you can't do anything. And I feel like if you are quick enough and have the right, all this is based on your skill level and, your timing and all that jazz, where, you have something like a last ditch EMP where they're about to board you or whatever. You switch your ship off fast enough, hit that EMP, knock out all their stuff, turn your ship back on, and quantum away.
Yeah, or when you get
go button.
When you get interdicted, I mean, there's like maybe a hacking mini game, and if your computer's got some computational power, like something like an MSR or something like a Herald would even because it's got these servers on board, it can even do it faster because you've got we've talked about the different size of computers and and how many they got or whatever, but yeah, I mean, you can immediately begin kind of just they've kind of hacking your way out of it or something. There needs to be some kind. You're right. There definitely needs to be some kind of a reaction balance that if done in the right timing, that you can you have an opportunity to get away.
Absolutely, because pirating shouldn't be easy mode either. Right. We talked about the implications of being a pirate and having having a criminal record, but it also shouldn't be easy mode either, where a couple of dudes with mantises can just pull you out of quantum. There should be a way to react without actually shooting at them. There should be a way to, like you were saying, something like a Star Runner or or like a Hercules, something that kind of has big computers on it where you wanted to get away. If you can kind of stall your way into hacking the hacking the Mantis, where you can take the ship off one.
Yeah, or the blue or whatever, because the Mantis pulls you out right and the blue holds you down.
Yeah,
type of thing. So yeah, I mean, there needs to be some kind of a way where if you where you're just not permanently locked. I mean, that's just that's a thing, you know what I mean? And so and obviously that means, I mean, and then then if they're really coordinated, I mean, they're going to use the Mantis to pull you out, they're going to use the blue to knock you down, then they're going to fly a Sentinel up and knock some distortions to take down your shields, knock your stuff out, and they'll probably, if they're real smart about it, they put the SRVs on you for tractoring you, so,
it definitely, there needs to be balance at some point.
There does.
It's like, the way I kind of, I'm kind of relating it a little bit is when we used to do, battlegrounds, PvP, in other MMOs where you'd have a rogue stun lock you, and you're just jacked. You couldn't, you couldn't do anything.
Yeah, no one likes that.
Yeah, I mean that's not fun.
No, I mean in EverQuest with the enchanters, you used to be able to just kind of permanently hold somebody in a bad situation.
Yeah, so there should be some sort of counter to. There needs to be a counter to it. Now I understand, if you blew your shot or just make it to where it's kind of a timing type of thing where, if you're prepared and know how to do it, there's ways of
There's windows of opportunity there.
Yeah, there's ways of countering somebody taking you over.
Right.
Without just flat out, trying to dogfight somebody in a C2 or a Caterpillar or something. So,
Yep.
yeah, something that we can gnaw on another day.
Absolutely. Well, I will tell you, like I said, I enjoyed the conversation, sir. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. Discussion. Can't say enough about spending a little time talking about this stuff, and exciting, and excited for the future. And really excited to see with 318, how things kind of do change on, in between, from if PvP truly does pick up, piracy truly does pick up, I'm interested in seeing that for sure.
Oh yeah. And, definitely, want to reiterate, and I hope this didn't sound too negative in the beginning, because for us, it really isn't that. We don't feel negatively against PvP.
No.
We were kind of hashing out some of the aspects of it. We're just excited to see where we go for the future.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like we just talked about, the game needs balance, and we were just kind of discussing that maybe some things need to be hashed out a little bit more before you start adding other things. So, and that's nothing against Kareah. Like I said, I think it's going to be cool for a lot of people, and I'm excited about it. Not for me to participate in, but for people to have something else to other gameplay options for them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, most definitely not a negative thing. We're just like I said, it's one of those things where we're just kind of hashing out raw thoughts.
Exactly.
For a lot of people, a lot of our podcasts may have a structure to it. We have a kind of an idea what we want to talk about, but for the most parts, these conversations, we're shooting from the hip a lot of the time. We want to keep
very organic.
We want to keep it organic. We want to keep the conversation organic, and where it goes, and where it ends up, it ends up. So, and we really hope you guys are enjoying the content. Let us know down in the comments below what else you guys want to hear, or if you wanted to add to the discussion tonight on some thoughts that you guys may have had. Make sure you put them down in there. We like to interact with you guys. That's one of the big things. And if you guys are listening to us on Spotify or on iTunes, make sure you give it a positive rating, and make sure you hit that thumbs up if you're listening to it on YouTube, and make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Space Shorts channel. You got anything else?
I don't. I just, as always, everyone, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have a lovely week, and we will definitely see you around the verse.
Guys, we love you, and we'll see you next time on another Rock Runners Report.